Thank you, Deputy Clerk. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Welcome to our Committee of Adjustment meeting on September 21st. This will be the last Committee of Adjustment meeting we have in this kind of format, just so everybody knows. Beginning of the new term, we have a different format we're going to be using. So I'll call the meeting to order, and I'll start off our land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge with respect the history, spirituality, and culture of the Anishinaabe, the people of the three fires known as the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations who have inhabited this land from time immemorial. And further give thanks to Chippewa Saugeen, the Chippewa Nawas, now known as Saugeen Ojibwe nations, as the traditional keepers of this land. We also recognize the Métis and Inuit, whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse people. Moving on to the agenda. Is there any add-ons to our agenda here today? Seeing none, the recommendation is that the agenda be approved as presented. Someone to move put on the floor, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlson, second by Councillor Colburn. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? Seeing none, show of hands, all in favor? The motion is carried. Declaration of peculiar interest, you can declare anytime you see fit during the meeting. The special council meeting August 18th. Yeah. Minutes of the 23rd. The recommendation is that the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting held on August 23rd, 2022 be approved. Someone to move to put it on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Colburn, second by Councillor Pringle. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? Seeing none, a show of hands, all in favor? Opposed, the motion is carried. Now we're down to new business, new applications. I'm going to dive right into it. I'm start off with number one. This meeting of the Committee of Adjustments to consider the application consent for Rick Abel under Section 53 of the Planning Act regarding property located at 170028 Center Road. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, please go ahead with your review.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There have been no request for deferral or withdrawal of this application. Notice of this consent in accordance with Ontario Regulation 197/96 made under the Planning Act was given on August 23rd, 2022 by ordinary mail to all property owners within 60 meters of the property which is subject to the application and to all required agencies. Notice was also posted on the subject lands and on the township's website. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment, you must make a written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee. Only a person or public body that requests a notice of decision of the Committee in respect to this proposed consent may submit an appeal.
Madam Planner, please go ahead.
Thank you. So this application is fairly straightforward. Mr. Rick Abel owns a 1 acre lot on Center Road. And what he's requesting is a lot addition. As when his house was built, a portion of the septic system and the hydro lines that service that lot were inadvertently placed outside of the property boundaries. So he wants to clean that up by adding land to his property. So he'll increase the frontage and then add a portion to the rear so that he it just increases the size of the property so that those features are located entirely on his lot. So it amounts to about 0.34 of an acre. So it's not that large of an addition. The property is within the Niagara Escarpment Plan area, so the county official plan defers to the Niagara Escarpment Plan for compliance with their policies. We did receive positive comments from the planner at the Niagara Escarpment, and it's not creating a new building lot, so they don't have any opposition to the application. We received comments from the Conservation Authority, and who have no objections to the proposal. The County Planning Department noted that provided positive comments are received from the Conservation Authority regarding the potential hazard lands, core area, and significant woodlands, wetlands, and other wetlands and pond feature, and that a daylight triangle be legally conveyed to the County of Grey as a condition of consent. They have no further concerns with the subject application. They request to be notified of any decision with respect to this file. Hydro One noted no concerns. Enbridge Gas did identify they have service lines running through the area, which may or may not be affected by the severance. Should there be a need to terminate any gas services or relocate any lines, it'll all be done at the cost of the property owner. The Risk Management Office have no comment. And the Niagara Escarpment Commission noted the staff have reviewed the application and do not have any concerns with the proposed severance. The commission supports the application. And we circulated this application to all property owners within 60 meters of the subject property, and we didn't receive any comments back from any surrounding neighbors and by the report submission deadline. So the recommendation in the report is to approve the application subject to the conditions that are noted in the report, and that would include the typically the conditions for lot addition, the required consent certification and cancellation fees, and specific to this one is the daylight triangle requirement at the corner of Grey Road 17 and Center Road to be deeded to the county. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you, Madam Planner. No one registered with the clerk to comment on this application. Does the committee have any questions on this application? Seeing none, it's pretty straightforward. I'll now call for a vote on the motion. I'll read the recommendation. It has been demonstrated that the application 1021 for Able for lands described as concession 20 lot 24 part lot 25 capital is consistent with the provincial policy statement 2020, the Niagara Escarpment Plan 2017, and generally conforms to the applicant official plan. It is recommended that the application be approved subject to the following conditions. 1, that a reference plan be completed and a copy filed with the municipal clerk or an exemption from the registered plan be received from the land registry office. 2, pursuant to section 5342 of the Planning Act, the certificate of consent be affixed to the deed within 2 years of giving the notice of decision. Note, section 5343 of the Planning Act requires that the transaction approved by this consent must be carried out within 2 years of the issuance of certificate, that is stamping of the deed. 3, that the applicable application is for lot addition only, and that the lands be severed, be merged under the same ownership as abutting lands, concession 20 NPT lot 25, and that section 3 or 5, section 50 of the Planning Act apply to any subsequent conveyances. A copy of this registration deed to the abutting lands, concession 20 and PT Lot 25 shall be filed with the Township of George Bluffs Committee of Adjustments. 4, that the applicant pays the applicable consent cancellation fee this time a certificate of the deeds. That the applicant pay the applicable consent certificate fee at this time as certification of the deeds. That the applicant meet county requirements for a daylight triangle at the corner of Grey Road 17, Center Road from the retained portion of the lands along Grey Road 17. Someone to move to put it on the floor, please. Moved by Councilor Colburn, second by Councilor Pringle. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? Seeing none, a show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. I'll now ask for adjournment of this meeting. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Councilor Colburn. That we adjourn, show of hands, adjournment. We're adjourned. Moving on, our next application. This is meeting at the Committee of Adjustments to consider application for Bruce Trail Conservatory under Section 53 of the Planning Act regarding property located at Concession 22, Lot 36. Madam Deputy Treasurer, please go ahead with your review.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There have been no requests for deferral or withdrawal of the application. Notice of this consent in accordance with Ontario Regulation 19796 made under the Planning Act was given on August 22nd, 2022 by ordinary mail to all property owners within 60 meters of the property which is subject to the application and to all the required agencies. Notice was also posted on the subject lands and the township's website. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment, you must make a written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee. Only a person or public body that requests a notice of decision of the Committee in respect to this proposed consent may submit an appeal.
Please go ahead, Madam Planner.
Thank you. So this application is fairly straightforward. The Bruce Trail Conservancy would like to secure approximately 4 acres of land or transfer 4 acres of land to the adjacent Taylor property. This application is related to the next one. What they're doing effectively is a land swap. The Conservancy will transfer the 4 acres of land to the Taylors for cattle access, and they will in turn receive land from the Taylors property for the Bruce Trail. So this application is for a 4-acre a parcel of land for cattle access to the Taylors. When we look at the policies that impact the application, we see that the property is located entirely within the Niagara Escarpment Plan area, and our township zoning provisions do not apply. The county official plan does defer to the Niagara Escarpment Plan for direction on whether or not the committee should support the application. So we see through the comments provided by their senior planner, Nick Hayward, that that the application as presented is supported by the Niagara Escarpment Plan. And as the report indicates, the Escarpment Plan does support efforts to secure land for a continuous route to the Bruce Trail and for the acquisition of suitable conservation lands as part of the Niagara Escarpment Parks and Open Space System. The comments that we received include comments from the Conservation Authority and, excuse me. So the Conservation Authority did provide us comments after the report submission deadline. They did note that they have no objection to the application. County Planning and Development, no concerns with the application, provided positive comments are received from the Conservation Authority with regard to potential hazard lands and identified natural heritage features. Hydro One has no comment at this time. Enbridge Gas did identify service lines are running in the area, which may or may not be impacted. If there is any impact to those service lines, or relocation is necessary, it would be at the cost of the property owner. The Risk Management Office has no comment. The Niagara Escarpment Commission note that the Commission supports consent application B 2022. They request a notice of decision on this application. And we circulated the application to all property owners within 60 meters of the subject property, and we did not receive any written comments by the report submission deadline. So the initially the staff report recommended that the decision on this application be deferred until the positive comments were received from the Conservation Authority. Those comments, positive comments, have been received, and the through my presentation of my report now, I'm recommending that the application be approved as it meets the applicable policies. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Planner. One person registered with the clerk to comment on the application. Anton Diamond is the agent for the applicant. Anton, do you have any comments? Are you here?
Yes, thank you very much.
Please
Mr.
go
Chair.
ahead.
Thank you. So yes, my name's Anton Diamond. I'm agent for these applications. I have nothing to add to the actual report that Jen provided. Everything is there and complete. I just want to, if possible, just take this opportunity to publicly thank the Taylors for their generosity and their civic mindedness in allowing the trail to cross their land for all of these years. As you know from hearing me talk about past applications that you've approved, the Bruce Trail is free to the public, but few people realize that we rely very heavily on private landowners such as Sarah and Mark Taylor to keep the trail continuous and off the road. The BTC's mission, of course, is to secure these stretches, which is the purpose and effect of this application. We're just over 70% secured. So we've got a little way to go yet, but we will eventually link together all of these stretches of land to form what we call a ribbon of wilderness, a natural corridor that will stretch from Niagara to Tobermory for people to enjoy and also to mitigate some of our climate and habitat challenges that we have. That's all I wanted to add, Mr. Chair. Thank you for letting me say that. I'm happy to answer any questions as well that the committee or yourself might have.
Thank you very much. Does the committee have any questions on this application? Seeing none, I want the committee to bear with me. There's a protocol I have to follow since the agenda was published the way it was. So I'll read the recommendation. The severance application B 2022 for Bruce Trail Conservatory for concession 22 lot 36 is consistent with the provincial policy statement, the Niagara Escarpment Plan, and generally conforms to the applicant official plan. Comments have not been received from the Great Sauble Conservation Authority. It is recommended that the decision on application B 2022 be deferred until positive comments are received. Now I need somebody to move to put this on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Pringle, second by Councillor Colburn. The planner has recommended that the application be approved, given that positive comments have been submitted by Sauble Conservation. If the committee moves to accept the application based on the planner's recommendation, we need a mover and a second to amend the motion on the floor. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carleton, second by Councillor Colburn. Is there any discussion on this amendment to the motion? Seeing none, I will ask for a vote on the amendment. Yes, I do. Okay, I'll put the amendment on the floor first, please. The amendment motion reads as follows. Positive comments were received from Great Sauble Conservation Authority demonstrating that severance application B 2022 for Bruce Trail Conservatory for concession 22 lot 36 is consistent with the provincial policy statement PPS 2020, the Niagara Escarpment Plan, NEP, and generally conforms to the applicant official plan. It is recommended that application B 2022 be approved with the following conditions. 1, that a reference plans be completed and a copy filed with the municipal clerk or an exemption from the reference plan be received from the Land Registry Office. 2, that pursuant to Section 5342 of the Planning Act, the certificate of consent be affixed to the deed within 2 years of the giving of the notice of decision. Note, Section 5343 of the Planning Act requires that the transaction approved by this consent must be carried out within 2 years of the issuance of the certificate, that is, stamping of the deed. 3, that the application for lot addition and that the lands to be severed be merged under the same ownership as the budding land, concession 20, lot 37 to 38, WP lot 39, and that subsection 3 or 5 of Section 50 of the Planning Act apply to any subsequent conveyance. A copy of the registered deed to the budding lands, concession 20 lot 37 to 38, WP part lot 39, shall be fixed with the Towns of Georgian Bus Committee of Adjustment. That the applicant pay the applicable consent certificate fee at the time of certification of the deeds. Is there any questions on the motion before us? I believe I have a move and seconder already. So if there's no questions from the committee, I'll ask for a show of hands. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. Now I'll ask for adjournment of this meeting. Adjourned by Councillor Pringle. Move on to our next one. This is the meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider the application for consent for Bruce Trail Conservatory Mark and Sarah Taylor under Section 53 of the Planning Act regarding property located at Concession 22 Lot 37 to 38 West Part Lot 39. Madam Deputy Treasurer, please go ahead with your review.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There have been no requests for deferral or withdrawal of the application. Notice of this consent in accordance with Ontario Regulation 197/96 made under the Planning Act was given on August 22nd, 2022 by ordinary mail to all property owners within 60 meters of the property, which is subject to the application, and to all the required agencies. Notice was also posted on the subject lands and the township's website. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment, you must make a written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee. Only a person or public body that requests a notice of decision of the Committee in respect to this proposed consent may submit an appeal.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for the purposes of this application being B2122, the property is owned by Mark and Sarah Taylor, and they are proposing to transfer 25.3 acres to the adjacent Bruce Trail Conservancy property. And the intent of this is to secure land to enhance the Bruce Trail. The property is located within the Niagara Escarpment Plan area. So as the county official plan directs, we defer to the Niagara Escarpment Plan. We've received comments back from Niagara Escarpment staff that the plan supports efforts to secure land for a continuous route for the Bruce Trail, and the application is in accordance with the Niagara Escarpment Plan. The application comments that we have received include comments from the Grace Harbor Conservation Authority, who note no objection to the application. The County Planning and Development Department note that provided positive concerns are received from the Conservation Authority with regard to potential hazard lands and identified natural heritage features, they would have no concerns. Hydro One has no comments on the application. Enbridge Gas did note they have service lines in the area, and any termination or relocation of the gas line would be at the expense of the property owner. The Risk Management Office has no comment, and the Niagara Escarpment Commission clearly states that the Commission supports consent application B2122, and they request a notice of decision on this application. We did not receive any written comments from any of the neighbors by the report submission deadline. So again, with this application, the recommendation in the report was to defer the decision until positive comments were received from the Conservation Authority. We did receive positive comments from the Conservation Authority. So my recommendation is that given that the application conforms to the applicable policies, the recommendation is to approve application B2122. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Planner. One person registered with the clerk to comment on the application. Antone Diamond, agent for the applicant. Do you have any comments, Antone?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have nothing to add, except probably that my shout out to the Taylors applies to this particular application. It's the same thing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Does the committee have any comments on this application? Seeing none. The severance application B22 for Mark and Sarah Taylor for concession 22 lot 37 to 38 WP part lot 39 is consistent with the provincial policy statement PPS 2020, the Niagara Escarpment Plan NEP, and generally conforms to the applicant official plan. Comments have not been received from the Grey County Solid Conservation. It is recommended that the decision on application B2022 be deferred until positive comments are received. Someone to move to put on the floor, please. Someone to move to put on the floor, moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Councillor Colburn. It's a process, folks. The planner has recommended that application be approved, given that positive comments have been submitted by Great Sauble Conservation. If the committee moves to accept the application based on the planner's recommendation, we need a mover and a seconder to amend the motion on the floor. Do I have someone to move the motion? Moved by Councillor Pringle, second by Councillor Colburn. If there's no discussion on the motion of amendment, we'll vote on the amendment. Show of hands, all in favor? It's carried. Now I'm going to read the amended motion. Positive comments were received from the Great Sauble Conservation Authority demonstrating that the severance application B2122 for Mark and Sarah Taylor for concession 22 lot 37 to 38, WP lot 39 is consistent with the provincial policy statement, PPS 2020, the negative escarpment plan, NEP, and generally conforms to the application official plan. It is recommended that the application B2122 be approved with the following conditions. 1, a reference plan be completed and a copy filed with the municipal clerk, or an exemption from the reference plan be received from the Land Registry Office. 2, the permit to Section 5342 of the Planning Act, the certificate of consent be affixed to deed within 2 years of the giving us notice of decision. Note, Section 5343 of the Planning Act requires that the transaction approved by this consent must be carried out within 2 years of the issuance of the certificate, stamping the deed. 3, that the applicant is for applications for a lot addition and the lands to be severed be merged under the same ownership as the budding lands, concession 22 lot 36, and the subsection 3 or 5 of the section 50 of the Planning Act apply to subsequent conveyance. A copy of the registered deed to the budding lands, concession 22 lot 36, be affixed to the Township of Jordan West Committee of Adjustments. 4, that the applicant pay the applicable consent certificate fee at the time of certification of the deeds. Someone to move to put on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Pringle, second by Councillor Colburn. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? See none, a show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. I need a motion of adjournment. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton. We adjourn. So we're moving on to our last application. This is the meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider the application for minor variance for Dean and Dina Birdran under Section 45 of the Planning Act regarding property located at 260 Bombing Beach Road. Madam Deputy Treasurer, please go ahead with your review.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There have been no requests for deferral or withdrawal of the application. Notice of this minor variance hearing in accordance with Ontario Regulation 200/96 made under the Planning Act was given on August 22nd, 2022 by ordinary mail to all property owners within 60 meters of the property which is subject to the application and to all the required agencies. Notice was also posted on the subject lands and the township's website. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment, you must make a written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee. Only a person or public body that requests a notice of decision of the Committee in respect to this proposed minor variance may submit an appeal. So this application is fairly straightforward. The property owners, Drew and Deanna Bertrand, would like to build a house on a vacant property. The house plan that they've picked requires that they apply for a reduction in the interior side yard setbacks, as well as an increase in the total lot coverage on the property. So the request is to decrease the interior side yard setback from 2 meters to 1.98 meters and 4 meters to 3.98 meters, and then to increase that total lot coverage from 15% to 20%. So in considering a minor variance, the committee considers the 4 tests. It must, the first one is that it must be minor. So within our zoning bylaw, for a property that's zoned shoreline residential, the interior side yard setbacks are typically 3 meters. The bylaw contains a permission whereby a side yard setback can be reduced to 2 meters, provided there's 4 meters on the other side yard. And this is in a situation where the dwelling has an attached garage. So with their plans for their new home, they are proposing a detached dwelling with an attached garage. So what they're asking for is that those side yards to be reduced from the 2 meters to 1.98 and on one side, and from 4 meters to 3.98. So when you look at that amount, I believe it works out to be 0.2 of a meter, works out to be about 7 inches. So the relief that would be granted by the committee would be 14 inches in total for those side yard setbacks. The other request is that the lot coverage be increased from 15 to 20%. So their property is located along a stretch of land that will see municipal water, the municipal water main be extended in front of their property. This is the area of Balmy Beach where we have an application for a plan of subdivision for the creation of 6 lots, and it's in a segment of Balmy Beach where the water isn't there, but it requires it's basically a gap where the existing water main is, and the intent is to provide municipal water services to those lots. So right now they're applying for it because they'd like that 20%. When the zoning or when the water main is extended, they will automatically, or as of right, have the permission to have 20% lot coverage. So in consideration of that, the variance is minor, and there's no negative impacts anticipated related to the road, the municipal road along Balmy Beach. It must be an appropriate or desirable use of the land, building, or structure. The zoning bylaw does identify a single detached residential dwelling and residential uses as common and acceptable uses within this area. It must maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan. Under the County of Grey official plan, the property is designated inland lake and shoreline. And so the county official plan does permit residential uses, and it defers to the local zoning bylaw to address development provisions. So we can conclude that it's consistent with the general intent and purpose of the county official plan. It must maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. So we see within the report that the intent of the maximum lot coverage is really to ensure the property isn't overdeveloped and that there is room for provided for drainage as well as space for a septic system. So we know that in 5 years, when that water main is extended, they will automatically go to 20%. So in that respect, it would meet the intent of the zoning bylaw. The reduction in the side yard setbacks totals approximately 7, or it equates to approximately 7 inches towards each lot line, resulting in a maximum of 14 inches overall. With this, one of the things that we did discuss at the staff level was drainage. So a reduction in a side yard setback, what we want to pay attention to is is making sure that this development isn't going to impact adjacent properties. So one of the things that we're recommending in this report is that a condition be attached to the approval of the minor variance, requiring that an engineered grading and drainage plan be prepared by a professional engineer and submitted at the building permit stage. to demonstrate that the development on this lot is not going to negatively impact the lots on either side. With that engineered grading and drainage plan comes a requirement for a certification from the engineer that the lot was developed as presented at the building permit stage, and it's a check that to make sure that the grading has also been complete so that it's not going to negatively impact the adjacent properties. So the County of Grey deferred to the Conservation Authority to provide positive comments on the significant woodlands to determine whether or not an EIS is going to be would be required for this property. And that the proposed development be connected to municipal servicing if such capacity is available, or the committee consider registering an agreement on title to ensure that a connection is attained when capacity is available. The county requests notice of any decision rendered with respect to this file. In reviewing the county's comments, an agreement being registered on title requiring the property owner to connect isn't necessary. The zoning bylaw contains a provision that requires if a water main passes in front of a property that they're required to connect. So the applicants have already expressed a desire to connect to the water main as well. The Conservation Authority have no objections to the approval of the minor variance application, as it will not impact any areas regulated, any natural hazards or natural heritage or water policies of the provincial policy statement. The Conservation Authority Risk Management Office have no comments on the application. So we did receive written correspondence from some of the neighbors. Shirley Weiner provided comments that are attached in their entirety for the committee's review, and requesting that the north setback be reduced instead of the south side yard setback. Tim Trant provided comments objecting to the increase in lot coverage and the reduction in the side yard setbacks. He expressed concerns with the drainage from this property impacting the culvert that runs along the north boundary of his property and outlets to the bay. This evening, I did receive a request from Mr. Tom Briggs to be notified of the decision of the committee. And just in conclusion, the report recommends the application be approved, subject to the committee including a requirement as a condition of approval in the minor variance that a engineered grading and drainage plan be submitted at the building permit stage. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you, Madam Planner. 3 members of the public register with the clerk to provide comments in support of or in opposition to the applicant. I'll start off first with Mr. Neil McCutcheon. Would you please go to the mic?
Can I adjust the microphone? I can. Okay, good. Thanks, Mayor Burley, councillors, and staff in attendance. My name is Neil McCutcheon. Shirley Weiner, who owns the property south and that is adjacent to the subject property, is my aunt, and that's why she's asked me to be here. I want to make 4 points about the property in my presentation. The first point is we have no issue with the granting the increase in lot coverage from 15 to 20%, so that's not an issue. I just want to reiterate, so this is number 2, reiterate Shirley's position request to have the setback on the north side of the property as opposed to the south. So the house would be moved to the north as opposed to the current request to have it moved to the south within those setbacks. And I don't see a reason that's been written in the application as to why it would be moved to the south as opposed to the north. Points 3 and 4 are a couple of things that I feel are missing from the application and the drawing. Just want to draw to your attention. The first one that I would draw your attention to is there appears to be 2 entrances off of this property onto Balmy Beach Road. I'm not sure if that matters, but it appears there was one built in 2021, and then there would be one that would be built quite some time prior to that. I don't know when. My fourth point is already on this property is a French drain. It runs along all of the western boundary of the property, appears to flow to the south. So there's a drain from the French drain in the southwest corner of the property. And it appears that it goes underground from the southwest corner of the property towards the ditch alongside Balmy Beach Road. I'm not sure if those last 2 things matter, but they are missing from the drawing, which I thought should be included. So just to summary, 4 points, no opposition to the lot coverage. Reiterate Shirley's position. We'd like to have the house moved to the north as opposed to the south. Appears to be 2 entrances from the property onto Balmy Beach Road. And the fourth one, there is also a French drain, appears to be a French drain on the property that I do not see included in the drawing. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Neil. Our next person that registered with the clerk was Glenda Coughlin. Are you there, Glenda?
Yes, I am.
Please go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you for letting me attend. I'm new to how this procedure all works. We own the property directly north, and the second entrance he's talking about is to our lot. There's only one entrance that's into 260, and it was permitted for an entrance permit through the township. I think Georgian Bluffs is a great place to live, and this young couple, I think, are going to be a great addition to the township, and they will be making sure all the drainage and everything is done properly. And they have someone overlooking them that knows a lot about that, worked in the industry for 43 years, and they'll be doing everything properly. They want everything to be proper and make their home there. And that's all I have to say. We have no opposition at all.
Thank you very much for your comments. The applicant, Danita and Drew Bertrand are present. I apologize if I didn't say that right. Do you wish to comment? Madam Clerk, are they still there?
Hi, we're still here.
Please go ahead. Any comments?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
You might just hear a little one in the background. So
that's fine.
You might hear some fussing. Yeah, just in the background. My husband just took him away. So thank you for having us at the meeting tonight. And we're really excited to be officially part of the Balmy Beach community and with family just down the road to spend lots of time with our little son. And so yeah, we're excited, and of course, we'll go through the township for the drainage plan and make sure everything is approved and to code. As was already stated, there's one driveway into the property. The second driveway is just on the next property north. It's just not in the middle of that property. It's to the far side. So that's why it might look like there's 2, but there's only one. And we did go get a driveway permit, and it was inspected by the township and approved. We're asking for the setbacks to be reduced because it's a narrow lot. It's a little bit under 75 feet. And so we just wanted to, instead of having 3 feet and 3 feet, we wanted to just shift the house and have the 2 meters and 4 meters, just to allow for a larger gate so we can actually get lawn equipment through one side of the house. 3 meters isn't a lot for kind of getting a lawnmower in behind. And so we want to make sure that we have enough room for the lawn equipment. And for the drainage, there's a drain at the back to just help with currently the drainage of the lot. But of course, we'll go to a professional engineer to get a full drainage plan and grading. We're just in the process right now of finalizing plans with the architect, but our next step is to speak to an engineer for the grading and the drainage plan. So we're learning lots in this process. It's our first time building a home. But thank you. I hope that answers all the questions, and I'm happy to answer any more that I can. So
Thank you very much. It's a very exciting time building a new home. Does the committee have any questions? Councillor Coburn, please go ahead.
Tell me what's needed.
Thank you, Mayor Burley. Yeah, so the driveway issue it seems to have been answered. I'm curious to know if the drain that's in place there if our planner would like to make comment about that, and if that's a pertinent issue. As usual, I have the typical concerns about stormwater runoff, and I understand that the engineered drawings and plan will ensure that the neighbors to the north and south are not flooded out as one would expect. I guess my question is for the larger area. I mean, the water has to go somewhere. So if it's being directed off the property in question and away from the adjacent neighbors to the north and the south, is the water redirection going to impact any other homes in that vicinity? And I would just ask those two questions of our planner through you, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Thank you, Councillor Coburn. Madam Planner, I do not know if you can answer an engineer question, or do you want to try? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to Member Coburn. So with the requirement for an engineered grading, a lot grading and drainage plan, the requirement typically is that the post-development flows don't exceed the pre-development flows. So the engineer is obligated to devise a plan that that doesn't direct water off the property at a greater volume or speed than what's actually occurring now. So there is, under, I believe, the Drainage Act, the requirement where you can't discharge water off of your property onto somebody else's. And so the engineer, that's why I recommended that a professional engineer devise a grading and drainage plan so that they can accommodate that. What they do is they go on site and they check out, they do a site survey of the property and look at the existing features. They incorporate the proposed dwelling and any development, including driveways, and decks, and then they then do the calculations to create that plan. If there is a situation where the post-development drainage is greater than the pre-development, then they need to approach the municipality for permission to proceed with the development.
Thank you, Madam Planner. A comment from the chair. It's always my big concern. The engineers do a fantastic job doing a drainage plan on the property, but my age-old concern is the outlet. Just don't take it to a municipal ditch. I would like the engineer to make sure they look at where is the water going to go, and that it's just something hopefully that they'll keep in mind when they do their drainage plan. Councillor Coburn, do you get all your questions answered?
I guess there was just mention of the French drain on the property, and I wasn't sure if that had any bearing in this discussion or not. I guess that will have to be considered when the drainage plan by the engineer is developed. So that was it.
Okay, thank you. Madam Planner, Mr. Hutchin had a comment on moving the house to the north. You've made those notes. Is that something that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so with the decision that is drafted for the committee's consideration, It doesn't specify which side yard has the 1.98 setback versus the 3.98 setback. So that's something that the property owner might like to. I would defer to the property owner to comment on whether or not the house can be shifted.
Okay, fair enough. Councillor Pringle, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, no, it's a great point there, Jen, too, and that was actually where my comment was going. With the south side being obviously the smallest of the two sides, and in the direction of water that flows off these properties is more so the water flowing to the south or the north. I guess my question was too, what about trying to center that house more in the middle of the lot as opposed to so much closer to the south? If you don't mind it, I can ask Mr. McCutcheon here, that drain you mentioned is on the southwest corner at the back of the property. So that's obviously the direction of the water flowing would be along that side. Right. So I guess my question too was also to the planner was, is there a possibility of actually shifting that house to the center or even more so the other way? So hopefully when we do a drainage plan here that we have more room to work with as opposed to less area to work with. I was just wondering, you brought up the exact question I was asking, which way should that actually, if it could be shifted, that'd be, in my mind, a little bit better. Obviously, my same concern as Councillor Colburn is water drainage. So.
Thank you, Councillor Pringle. Again, I think the owners of the property have noted the comments, and I think quite sure they'll look at this issue and with their architect and so on. Please go ahead, Jen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Keeping the not assigning a specific side yard to the setbacks would be beneficial, because then the engineer, when that engineer goes forward to create that grading and drainage plan, they'll be able to make a recommendation based on the site conditions to see which where the house should best be would best be located to facilitate appropriate drainage conditions.
Okay, thank you. Sounds fair. Does the committee have any other questions? Seeing that, I'm going to read the recommendation. This minor variance has found to satisfy the 4 tests of a minor variance as required by the Planning Act RSO 1990 PT 13 accordingly. It is recommended that application A0922 be approved, subject to conditions requiring the submission of a engineering drainage and drainage plan at the building permit stage. Someone to move to put on the floor, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlson, second by Councillor Pringle. Is there any discussion of motion before us? Seeing none, show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. I need adjournment of this public meeting. Moved by Councillor Colburn that we adjourn. Now we're back to our regular agenda. Unfinished business. We have one item. Amendment severance application for B1222 for Sue Brown. The decision issued on August 23rd can contain an error in the description of the property. The decision sheet has been amended and can be re-signed by the committee members. Is this just a point to bring forward, Planner?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We noticed on the severance decision that the total parcel legal description contained an error. The intent of the approval isn't going to be changed. We're just correcting the legal description on the decision so that the applicant's lawyer can move forward with the legal documentation for the parcel.
Okay, so your secretary resend that out to the committee.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So that's all of our agenda. Our next meeting is December 13th, if needed. I guess I just need adjournment. Motion of adjournment moved by Councillor Pringle, second by Deputy Mayor Carlton, that we adjourn. A show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.